on gender-based violence and femicide implementation collaborative. And we really want to welcome everyone who joined for this webinar. It's really important to us that we continue to have the conversation about a victim-centric justice system and how that would affect the way that we work as civil society, the way that the police work, the way that people in the Department of Justice and court works. And we really hope that you'll take this opportunity to participate. I want to, before I introduce the speaker, I want to just explain quickly how you can participate. So you will see that you have some icons on your screen. The one is a microphone, and that you can use to mute and unmute yourself. And we ask that you keep this for this session, that you keep your mic on mute so that we limit the background noise. You are welcome to turn on your video camera. That's the button just next to it on the left-hand side. However, if you struggle with internet connection or data bandwidth, it might be a bit difficult, so you might want to keep it turned off. If you would like to raise any questions or make any comments, then you're welcome to do that using the chat function. You will see a little like a text box in the row of icons, and if you click on that, you will open the meeting chat and you can post your questions there. And if you want to see who are the participants for this webinar, you can click on the little participant icons so that you can see who is all tuned into the webinar. You might see some of your colleagues or people that you have previously worked with. So we want to ask in the meantime that you please go to the chat function. I've just typed there a short message to type your questions there. But while we introduce the speaker, I'd like you to please type your name and where you are from. So say you are from Wynberg Court or Belleville Police Station, please type your name and where you are from. It really helps us to understand who is joining the webinar, and it's also nice for your colleagues to see if you're on the participant list. So please type your name and then where you are from. And thanks. Emily Dlamini said she's from the Sheriff's Office in Centurion East. So please use Emily's example and type your name and where you are from in the meeting chat. And thank you also, Mumtaz. All right, so please continue to do that. I think it's really nice also for the speaker to see who's joining the call. And now I want to introduce the speaker, and we're really grateful that he's made the time available to speak to us this afternoon. And as I said, during his presentation, if you have any questions or comments, please also post that in the chat. So Major General Linda is currently the component head of the Family Violence, Child Protection and Sexual Offences Investigation division within the Division of Detective Services. He specializes in investigating crimes against women and children, and he is responsible for 186 FCS units nationally. He has over 20 years experience in the South African Police Service and holds an honors degree in forensic investigation. And he served as a board member of the Choranang Advocacy Centre for Abused Children. In 2006, he was deployed in England as the Foreign Liaison Officer, responsible for transnational organized crime, fraud, and crimes against women and children. Major General Linda facilitated training on community policing, gender-based violence, and victim empowerment, and was a moderator for the Kigali National Conference. He further participated in several South African national television programs, such as Carte Blanche, ENCA, and SABC, on issues of gender-based violence, child abuse, and 16 Days of Activism, as well as participated in research on Johannesburg Inner City Young Sex Work Project. He ran workshops at churches, schools, prisons, hospitals, and community-based NGOs. And today he is joining us to talk to us about creating a victim-centric criminal justice system and how to do that across service providers. We are really excited, Major General Linda, that you can be with us today, and I am going to hand over to you.
Good afternoon, and thank you very much for having me. It is an honor and a pleasure for me to share with you what the Department of SAPS is doing in terms of servicing the victims of gender-based violence in different forums. I'll try and see if I can upload my presentation. Let me see if I can do that. Bear with me. Let's see, upload it here. I must confess that I'm trying to load here the presentation that I have.
Yes.
Can you see it?
We can't see it yet.
Will you allow me to present without displaying it on your other side?
Yes, or otherwise you can send it to me and then I can share it.
Mute your mic so that we cannot hear you. What is your mic?
Hello?
Yes.
Okay. Still you can't see it?
No, we can't see it yet. But if you look at your email, yes, then you can just forward it to me.
Okay. Let me try and do that.
In the meantime, I want to ask everyone who recently joined to please, if you haven't yet done so, please in the chat function. Yes, we can see it now, Major General.
Wonderful.
Yes.
Wonderful. That's
Please,
great.
in the chat function, type your name as well as where you are from. Thank you. Over to you, Major General.
All right. Thank you very much for this opportunity to present and share with you what the Department of SAPS is doing. I want to mention that the FCS was first established as the CPU. I see there's a background noise.
Yes, I'm just reminding everyone to please mute your mics so that we reduce the background noise.
All right. I just want to give a background that the FCS was first established as a CPU in 1986. Some will remember the Child Protection Unit. The first one was established in Durban, in KwaZulu-Natal. Then in 1996, there was a need for the specialization in terms of treating the victim of gender-based violence, more so the offenses, I mean the rape cases. That's when we upgraded the CPU and changed the name to FCS. FCS stands for Family Violence, Child Protection and Sexual Offenses Investigation. So the contents I'm going to share with you is the background, which is the constitution mandate, the divisional mandate. I'm not going to go through everything, but you'll see that this is how I'm going to proceed with the presentation. As I've already mentioned, that we first have a CPU, then we also have a FCS in 1996. In 2006, our department decentralized FCS into stations. In other words, most people will know that it was like they closed down the FCS units in the country. Then in 2010, with the then National Commissioner, General Pegitele, by then re-established the units. That time when we closed down in 2006, we only have about 66 units. And when we re-established the units in 2010, then we established the units in 176 units, which later we included other specialized entities within the very same component, which is SECI, which I will also explain later what SECI means. Then we included them, then we made the units to be 185. We have our constitutional mandate, which is derived from our section 205 of our constitution, which is remit 3, that we prevent, we combat, and we investigate crime. And we maintain public order, we protect and secure the inhabitants of the Republic and their property, uphold and enforce the law. You will see how important is this mandate at a later stage when I speak of proactive policing and also reactive policing. On the same breath, I do want to mention to you that this is a very difficult area of policing within our environment. It's unlike the other cases of your housebreaking, your robbery, your business robbery, because those ones you're able to deploy visible policing to patrol the areas, and those criminals, they might get arrested or they might go away. The difficult part of policing GBV is because GBV happens within the closed doors. The second reason is it's happening within the dark alleys. So you see our mandate here that, as I mentioned, I go down, we also have our Police Act that give us power to do the work that we're doing. Then the FCS is a component, is resorting under Division Detective Service, which also have 5 components. We have your organized crime, you have your commercial crime component, you have your specific crime that deals with the stolen vehicles and your stock theft. You have your general detectives within the environment. Then the FCS is under that division detectives, but FCS is a component that specializes in the crimes within the GBV environment, is to ensure the effectiveness and efficiency in combating crime against women and children, We also do our awareness campaign, which is our proactive measures. And also being reactive, then we do investigate when crime has already been committed. So this is what our department saw as critical, that we need to have specializing detectives within this environment. Our regulatory framework, as you can see, that we do deal with domestic violence, we deal with sexual offenses, we deal with victim empowerment, national guidelines, we have victim empowerment, national instruction. What we normally do when there's a legislation, we simplify it for our foot soldiers and call it, make it a national instruction. You will see Child Justice and Children's Act and Prevention and Combating of Trafficking in Persons. On this one, the mandate is within the Hawks itself. But ourselves, we assist the DPCI when it comes to children. We also deal with our criminal law, which is also Forensic Procedures Amendment Act, that help us to collect the buccal swabs from the perpetrators. We are also being guided by the ministerial 6-point plan. Point 1, all victims should be treated with respect, dignity, and be interviewed by trained police officials in a victim-sensitive manner. Point number 2, victims should be assisted at a victim-friendly room. You will also, I should also mention that each and every police station is obliged to have a victim-friendly rooms. Where these rooms are not made available, there should be a dedicated office or room whereby victims of gender-based violence should be assisted, be interviewed privately, not be made to queue with the people who are there to certify documents and be asked, can I help you next? I'm here to report rape, and you are now disclosing in front of everyone that is there your own private incident that happened to your good self. So point number 3, victims will be referred, taken for medical examination by the healthcare professionals to obtain medical evidence and be completed in the form called medical report. That is your J88 that the doctors are completing. I think it is worth mentioning also the fact that it is important for the victim of more so of sexual offenses to be taken to the doctor within 72 hours. That assists us to be able to obtain the medical evidence, which is your swabs from the complainant. The complainant becomes a crime scene. Once that has been obtained by a medical practitioner, then is collected in a container called Sexual Offences Evidence Collection Kit, which we forwarded to our forensic lab for analysis. When we happen to arrest the perpetrator, we also obtain the buccal swabs. Then we compare that. In comparison, then is when we get what we call DNA report that links the perpetrator to the crime scene, also to the complainant. Point 4, the investigation should be conducted by the FCS or a detective with relevant training. What happens is that we have 3 levels of training. We have the first responder on sexual offenses, which we train our frontline police officers that are driving the police vans and also those who are at the client service center. We also have another training which takes 2 weeks. That one we give it to each and every detective at a station level, so that whenever the FCS member might be busy, not available at that time, then they're able to assist the complainant halfway until the FCS member arrives. I do want to mention that FCS members are on standby 24/7. Whenever a person walks into a police station to report a case, the person at the client service center will contact the FCS member on standby to come and take over the investigation, obtain the full detailed statement, and also escort the victim into the medical practitioner with a view to obtain the forensic evidence that we later utilized as a comparison to the DNA analysis that we do. Point 5, the families and the victims of sexual offenses, femicide and infanticides should be referred to the victim support services that are available within the precinct for legal, medical, social, and psychological help. I think I should share with you that rape is not only a scar on a person's body, but it's also a scar on a person's soul. So while we are so willing to arrest the person to have justice done, but it's important for the healing process that the victim should heal. So how do we do that? We interact with our stakeholders, our NGOs, for counseling, because as police officers, we don't have much time to specialize on that. We are just investigating officers. So we might have lay counselors at police stations, but it is good to refer to the professionals and all those NGOs who are specializing in those areas of supporting the victims. They've got more time to do that. So we have a list of referrals within our police stations. When the victim comes, then we refer for counseling, we refer also for legal advice, we also refer for social and psychological help within the environment or the precinct where the victim might be residing. Point number 6, victims should be proactively provided with feedback and progress of their cases on the continuous basis. We do have concerns. We receive complaints as I'm working at the National Office of victims or complainants who are complaining that sometimes they don't get progress of their investigation. At some stage, when they complain, you look at the case itself, you find that the case has progressed, a person has been arrested, the case is in court, but maybe the investigating officer failed to explain that the first appearance of the perpetrator, you as a victim, you don't need to be there. It's there for him to appear in court and later on be reminded for bail application. The IO has to run around and verify the address where the person stays, whether is there an opportunity for him to abscond and do a different of ends of justice by not coming to court. Those matters, while the investigation continues, while awaiting for DNA report and fingerprints report to check the person whether he does have previous convictions or not, the complainant does not need to go to court. The only time when the case is trial ready, then is when the court will issue subpoenas that subpoenas the complainant to come and tell the story. That is when now we call it a trial. So some might wonder, this person was arrested, it's almost 3 months, I don't hear anything. When the investigation continues, but that should be explained on day one, the process flow of the investigation, what's going to happen, so that the complainant must not wonder what happened to the person. Also, when the person gets bail, the IO, the investigating officer, must go and explain to the complainant that this person is been granted bail. It is his constitutional right to be out on bail. We try to oppose bail, but the court have granted bail because the investigation and the criminal justice system, it is a relay. It's a team effort. It's NPA, it's SAPS, it's also the judicial. Just to give us what call a structure, how it's sitting, as I was explaining that we are having 5 components resorting under the divisional commissioner. I'm not going to waste much time on this one. And as you can see, the FCS structure, I'll just elaborate more on this one. So as you can see, the national head is myself. I have 2 brigadiers that are reporting to me. Those directorates, one is responsible for investigation. This is a team that goes into the provinces and check if there's compliance and if there's progress in terms of the cases that were reported. I do want to mention that I am measured on detection rate, trial ready, and also on conviction rate. Those are 3 dimensions I'm measured on. And these dimensions also go as far as the parliament. The parliament is also assessing the department in terms of detection, in terms of trial ready, in terms of conviction rate. How are we progressing on that? We also have our own targets that we have to meet. Hence, I also have my session, 3/4 session, where my provincial heads have to come and account if they did not meet the targets or they deviated. So the second directorate, we have social workers practicing forensic social work. I do want to stress here because people sometimes confuses these social workers as if they are there to do therapy. No, we have the social workers at DSD who are doing the therapy. Then we have these foreign social workers who are responsible for assessing children and also obtaining statements in case we don't manage to break through to the small children age of 4 or 5. They're not able to give a statement. We then bring in the expertise of these FSW, who now then go as far as obtaining statement, and others obtain do the assessment and come up with a report. They also go to court and also testify in court in terms of the reports they're producing. Then you'll see also that we also have underneath the Brigadier Pudumo, the Section Head of Investigation, we had a section which is called SECI. SECI is for serial rapist and computer crime investigation. This section is dealing with your serial rapists, those who are raping repeatedly. We will recall that in Gauteng, they'll remember the birthday serial rapist, Mjali, the one that was raping the students from the universities. All the time when he meets with them, he will say that he has a birthday party on that day. Then he will rape them. And others will remember, those who might be in KZN, you will remember that in Pinetown, last year, 29 August, we also have what called a job seeker serial rapist. He was targeting women who are looking for a job. He will come to them to say, at work, they're looking for someone. Then he will come and escort them and put them through the bush, and he will rape them. 32 women in KZN, and he robbed them of their belongings, which were cell phones and rings and earrings and chains, whatever they have, and their handbags. He was given, convicted and given 32 lives and 475 years imprisonment. That's what happened last year through DNA. Also, that was a team effort between the SAPS and also the judicial, which is your NPA, and ourselves as SAPS. So the structure you see here is also appearing in your provinces. Each and every province I have a brigadier there called the provincial head of FCS. You also have 3 legs. He's got a commander investigation, a commander FSW, and also a commander SECI. More so on SECI as well, if I may elaborate further. What do I mean by computer crime investigation? That is your cyber crime. That is your deep and dark web. That is your child pornography. As we know that we have got now 2 planets. We have this planet where we live in, and we also have the planet which I call cybercrime planet. That's where our children are on social media there. They enter there on their own sometimes, and then when these criminals, the pedophiles and paraphilias, come and catch up with them, and hence some of them get missing through that communication and get kidnapped for different reasons, either for organ harvest, some also to be deployed in the sex industry. So this particular section specializes on those crimes, crimes within the cyberspace. Going down, I'll give you a breakdown of the units. I was mentioning that we have 185 units. You can see wherever province you're coming from, that Eastern Cape, we've got 28 units, Free State 19, Gauteng 23, KwaZulu-Natal 26, Limpopo 17, Mpumalanga 16, Northern Cape 17, Northwest 13, Western Cape 26. Now, I know the question might arise, which police stations are not covered? All police stations are covered by these specialized units. They work in a cluster format where the stations are grouped together to say you, maybe Sishiko, if it's in Limpopo, all these stations are falling under you. You will cater for all these cases. So this is also, as you can see, the pie there, how they are divided. As I mentioned earlier, that we have proactive measures. That is prevention. Prevention within this environment is to give the awareness campaigns and also talk shows on radio stations and also at churches and also on NGOs and all at Imbizos to try and inform our community that they must take care of themselves. Sometimes we also explain the do's and don'ts to say don't walk alone at night, and whenever you leave home, tell that your family where you are going, And also we do also mention that especially on children, the children when they're playing, they must play in front of the elderly people or the guardian or the parents, and if they go and play next door, they must inform. And if someone is giving them a sweet, they must not accept gifts from the strangers. That is our prevention measures. But more so, this is done by our visible policing, which is social crime prevention. They team together with other stakeholders, your NPA, your DSD, and your health, sometimes your home affairs, and also with FCS, going to different schools or also different churches or different imbizos where their expertise are needed. Then reactive, now, when we did not prevent, is when now the crime has been committed. This is a difficult part I spoke about, because mostly on rape cases, you hardly find an eyewitness that will tell you, I saw what happened. Now that's where the expertise of the FCS comes on board in terms of investigation, in terms of linking the pieces of evidence, which includes your evidence collection kit, your buccal swabs from the suspect or perpetrator, and also the taking of fingerprints of that particular person. I do want to mention here that we encourage people, when we do the proactive policing, to say, even though you don't know who might have raped you, is somebody you don't know, it's important to report that matter, because we have our laboratory that is specializing in producing DNA. They are able to link the crime scenes. This person might have raped you, you're not the first one. They might have raped someone else. He might also go on and rape another person. When we happen to catch him, then we're able to link him with all the cases that he might have committed. I made an example of that Moses Mavela from in Pinetown. The one was given 32 lives and 272 years. The DNA there, 99.9% was the report, the analysis that came up to say that he is the one who raped all the 32 women that were there. Then we have the multidisciplinary cooperation, as I mentioned, that we go with DSD, with NPA, with other sister departments and also NGOs to different areas in terms of the awareness campaign and also the existence of these specialized investigations. I do want to mention that also that we have been very successful in having this partnership with the community, entire community, civil society, in assisting us, in giving us information that made us to be successful in terms of prosecuting those whom we have already arrested. This is just what I call explaining the policing that I was just said already, and we also have this proactive policing that early intervention is important to give awareness into the community. This include also, because this GBV sometimes happens within the domestic environment, get domesticated, where the uncle or the grandpa or the stepfather of the child is the one who is perpetrating the sexual offenses. We have victim support rooms in each and every police station, as I mentioned, that if it's not there, then they have to have a dedicated room or office for the victim so that she can be interviewed privately. And we also deal with cases of the vulnerable groups, which includes your LGBTIQ+ that we also assist. Awareness campaigns are mentioned in schools, communities, and in the media as well. Reactive policing, that is our now investigation, is when the crime has been committed, someone went to a CSC to report a case, it gets registered at the CSC, then the message goes through, transmitted through our computer, it goes to the person's cell phone to inform the person that here's your case number. Then the FCS takes the process through by coming and collecting the complainant from the CSC and process it through, as I mentioned, in terms of forensic investigation. Reporting in person, we get such reports. We also get reports where somebody phoned telephonically. We also work very hand in hand with the TCCs, Tuduzela care centers. We deploy our police officers there. They assist a lot in terms of those victims to go there. They don't have to walk into a police station. We also get calls from the hospitals and also from clinics and also from homes. When somebody's been raped at home, he phones, then we deploy the police to go and assist the victims from where they are and also do the processing. Obtaining of statements, of course, we need an affidavit in order to obtain, to open up a case docket. And medical examination, I've mentioned that it is critical that within 72 hours, a person must go and report. Those are cases which I call them acute. Reason being that there are chronic cases where somebody was raped, but it took time, some 10 years, 13 years, 20 years down the line, it did not report the matter. But when he wants to report a matter, we still accept the case itself. But chances of us proving the case sometimes become very minimal. The prospect of successful prosecution becomes a challenge because the case is chronic. But we encourage people that before you bath, please report a case, go and get examined so that we can obtain the evidence from the complainant, because the complainant becomes our crime scene within the sexual offenses environment. And identification and collection of physical evidence, buccal SAPS, I mentioned, at crime scenes, in utilization of investigative aids, that is our FSL and our FSW. FSL, that's our forensic science laboratory, and also through our FSW, our social workers, they assist us to obtain statement from children and do the assessment. And identification and apprehension of alleged offenders, of course, even if you don't know the person, then if you might have seen, hey, this person had a big mouth and a big, a big nose, that we have our ID kit specialist that they throw the pictures of those people. Then we advertise the ID kits on the media for assistance. You will be surprised. The case of the serial rapist, the first one in this country, as Farul Kumalo in 2003, he raped more than 100 children around Gauteng. One witness, key witness, which I put on stand, saw that he had the brown teeth protruding on the left upper lip of his mouth. And when a judge called him in front, they were able to see the teeth, and that confirms and also strengthened my case against him, because the child on that day did not see him opening his mouth. His lawyer was the only one talking. So observing the perpetrator and be able to identify, even though you don't know, you can be able to say there was something peculiar about this person. I think he had a squinty eye, or he had big nose, or he was stuttering when he's talking. You are able to do that. But furthermore, those who might be using balaclava, we also saw the case of a serial Alexandra Cemetery serial rapist who was wearing a balaclava. Through DNA, we're able to connect him, and we also utilize other unconventional methods of investigation, which I won't disclose to you. But we happened to find him, even though none of the victims saw his face. But he was also arrested and given 28 lives imprisonment. Prevention of crime against women and children, yes, that's a role of FCS, investigation of reported cases of crimes against women and children, and prepare witnesses for court. That is also our mandate and also our role to secure also conviction. But this one, as I said, is partnership between ourselves and the judicial. The role of the forensic social workers that I've mentioned before is to obtain assessment impact reports on children at the age of 12. I do also want to mention here that sometimes you do find children who are much older than 12 years. Those who are maybe 15 and 20, but who are having that low syndrome, then they are backwards by 3-4 years. The FSW do assist us in assessing them as well. Obtaining statements from the victims who are not able to give statements to the police. We also explore the possibility of alleged sexual abuse on children. They determine the competence of child as a witness in court. They also compile impact report on child victims and also provide experts' testimony in court. They go to court with their reports and explain how did they come to the finding that they might have concluded in the report that they might have submitted. The role of the serial, I've already mentioned that they investigate the serial rapist cases, looking at the NFDD, which is our national forensic database that we have. that today also follow on that one and check the suspect that might have been arrested, that might have other cases that were outstanding against them, where the issue of also child pornography, as we know, and also the investigation of DNA linkages where other people are linked by means of the DNA, they follow on that one. We also have, as I said earlier on, that all stations have VFRs. These are victim-friendly rooms that I mentioned, that if they're not available, they should provide an office or space whereby the victims of GBV should be interviewed privately in the private space where they can feel comfortable to able to articulate of what happened to them. So we intend to ensure that the victims can report all forms of sexual offences in an environment that assures confidentiality and respect, and also uphold their dignity. You will see that this is in line with our ministerial 6-point plan. All these services work towards reducing secondary victimization of the victims. One will remember that a number of years ago, when you go and report, women would be asked, what time is this? Why were you walking at night? Look at the size of the skirt you are wearing. How many people rape you? Did you enjoy it? All those comments were also accounting for secondary trauma to the victims. Our police officers are not fashion designers and are also not advisors, are not negotiators. They're not supposed to say all those things. Once they say those things, identify them because they're out of line. Then we need to deal with them within the disciplinary measures within the SAPS. Those are rotten potatoes that we don't need. Even those also who are advising women who are married to say, go back home, go and negotiate this thing. You are married, he paid lobolo for you. Lobolo means nothing. You can't buy someone. You cannot beat up a woman because you paid lobolo. Lobolo does not mean anything. It's just an agreement and a token of appreciation between the two families. So we are saying no women must be sent back. And our National Commissioner, Commissioner General Kehla Stole, have emphasized this several times, and our Honorable Minister Pekicele also said it. There should be no women sent back to say, go and negotiate. The police must assist. Whether it is a husband or no husband, that they must assist. And if you happen to encounter such treatment at police stations, identify the person, identify the police stations. We have different levels of complaint. There's a complaint desk within the police station, and also I think when you go online, you can be able to get that within the intranet of the police. We have different levels of command. We've got your station commander, we have your district commissioner, we have your provincial commissioner. Please make a noise about that police station so that we can identify, and if need be, then we can be able to deal with those individuals. If they need training, we will retrain them, we'll workshop them. If they don't need training, they're trained, but they're coming with an attitude, then we can deal with an attitude. This is not a place for such misconduct within the police service. We cannot tolerate it. We also have the victim-friendly facilities. These victim-friendly facilities is a partnership between ourselves as FCS through our MOU with an organization, NGO called Matlaban. So they come to the offices of the FCS, then they paint and furnish that particular room for victim-friendly. You will hear that we are talking victim-friendly, but we are not talking child-friendly. So these VFFs, they are victim and child-friendly. So children, they're able to have toys and play around. But the victim-friendly rooms at police stations, they are mostly made, I think, more conducive for adult victims, because it's not only the victims of GBV. If somebody has been hijacked, or there is a case of homicide or suicide, and the victims are coming there, all of victims are put a place in that kind of a room. But at VFF, those are child-friendly rooms. They are toys where we make our children to feel like children again and have a space to play around and gain their strength and their confidence again, their self-esteem in that VFFs. We have a very few of them because it's coming from sponsorship from business partners of our stakeholder NGO called Matlaban, where the business people are donating to have those rooms refurbished to be child victim friendly and also child friendly. And this is a breakdown of how many of these we have. You see the VFRs, Fs. As you can see, that it's a very high number that we have. At police station is 1,001. But as you know, we've got more than 1,001 police stations. So these are the police stations that are not included here. They are having those big, they are having dedicated offices or space for the reporting of such. Now, one will ask me a question, Linda, you are talking so nicely about these units and they are specializing to be effective and efficient. Hyman, can you show us what have they done? These units were re-established in the 1st of June 2010. In financial year, from June 2010 into March, end of March 2011, these are life sentences that were produced by these specialized units, 167. Then financial year 2011-2012, now this we're talking about now your 1st of April to the 31st of March 2012, we attained 389. You can see the breakdown in terms of the provinces where you come from. You can see the people who are doing lives already within your province. The next financial year, you can see that this year we did extremely well. Once again, I cannot only say this is a work of FCS. This is the work of the criminal justice system. This is a team effort of SAPS, your NPA, and the judicial together, and other assistance that we got from NGOs in terms of making those victims to be able to talk in court as well about their experiences and testifying in court. This is the total number of life sentences that were given, 826. 2013-2014, this is now also a breakdown, as you can see, per provinces. We attained 645. We drop much there on that financial year. We get 645, and these are number of life sentences that people got, those who were convicted. Mind you, I'm only mentioning life sentences. Those who got 20 years, 25 years, 30 years, I have not included them here. I just give you an abstract of the life sentences only. In 2014-2015, you can see here also, here's the breakdown. You can see which are leading provinces, and you can see here we attained 612 life sentences for that financial year. 2015-2016, I don't know what happened here. We dropped drastically. We came down to 298 in terms of life sentences. You can see the breakdown of the provinces, how many lives per province that was attained. Then in 2016-2017, we had a bit of a wake-up call. We up our game a bit, and we attained 511 life sentences. You can see the breakdown per province. Then in 2017-2019, we attained 692 life sentences, and you can see the breakdown. When you look at the breakdown per province, you can obviously see now which are the hotspots provinces in terms of serials that were arrested within and convicted within those particular year. 2018-2019, you also see the breakdown per province, the life sentences only, and you can see the total down there, 658 life sentences. The recently declared statistics, financial year 2019-2020, we attained 637. You can see the breakdown where Gauteng is leading with 178. And this one also include the one of KZN, the one I mentioned, that he got 32 lives and 475 years for raping. And just to give you, I think this was the last slide now, Chairperson, of my presentation. This is what I said I did not give you on the previous slide. You can see now here from 1 to 9 years, you can see the total number of the breakdown per province and the total number at the bottom of how many of those sentences, and you can see how many cases, and you can see also how many accused persons. But more so, drawing your attention to the 637, the one that I just mentioned, you can also see that is 637 and 405 people are doing life sentences. We are giving them citizenship in prison because they cannot live within our society. These are the elements that are not good to be within our community. That is how much we do.
Thank you so much.
Yes, I think I should. These other ones is just a breakdown. The total number of I consolidated, Chairperson. Sorry, I consolidated all the life sentences to be a total of 5,435. That means since establishment of this unit in the 1st June of 2010, this is what we attained. I'm not going to bore you with my highlights of my stories. I have highlights where of the cases that we are referring to. At some stage, some might recall. I'm not going to bore you with this, but in conclusion, Chairperson, I do want to mention, I'm not bragging, but what I'm saying, there isn't any single unit within the Department of Police that have these successes. Neither your only other specialized unit within the SAPS, and I can assure you that these successes, you can't find them within the continent. I've traveled around, they don't even have the FCS unit, they don't even have a gender-based violence specialized investigation units around the continent. And I can also assure you that you can't find this globally. I've worked with FBIs while I was in England. I work with also Scotland Yard police officers. They don't have this kind of sentencing. Our government must be commended for the legislations that they process through for us to be able to implement these legislations. So other countries, I was called one of the neighboring countries to go and assist, but there was no political will for them to pass or process the bill in terms of gender-based violence, because some of them are told they are the perpetrators. So we should commend our government for this initiative, that they are quick in amending and also finalizing our legislations. And this is a product that you can't find anywhere in South Africa and anywhere in the continent. And if anyone can find these successes, please come and see me. I will tender my resignation and go home. That means that if there are other people who are doing better than this, then I will have to go home and look after my cattle and goats. On that note, Chairperson, I thank you for the opportunity.
Thank you, Major General Linda. We did hear some chicken in the background. I hope that's part of your part of the cattle that you refer to. I saw a couple of questions in the chat, and then maybe I can just put them all to you, and then give you an opportunity to respond. And I really want to thank you for your presentation. I know that everyone in this webinar really appreciates the function of the FCS units and the absolutely critical role that the FCS team across the country play in ensuring justice for survivors of gender-based violence. Someone said that it all looks very well on paper, but the challenge that we are faced with is a lack of implementation, specifically due to a lack of resources, especially in rural areas where there are no victim-friendly rooms, no transport, a lack of information. And that often means that in the end, victims don't know what is going on. And I think specifically about things that Greg Prices has experienced, where victims don't know that what process will be followed for bail, and yeah, so while the minimum standards and documents really are phenomenal pieces of policy, what does you and the FCS unit do to ensure that those are implemented? And then just some other thoughts. Maybe it would be good to explain some of the reasons why a case may not get to court. So you explained that you're measured on detection rates, trial readiness, and conviction rates, but obviously we know that there is a disparity between the numbers of reported cases at SAPS and then the numbers of cases that actually get placed on the roll and are finalized. Maybe you can give us some insights as to why they are, why there's such a big difference. And then also about, we know that the FCS investigating officers work extremely hard. And like you said, they really are on call 24 hours. And how does SAPS deal with the issue of the understaffing of these units? Because they play an extremely important role, but it's also an emotionally taxing role. And how do we make sure that we have enough of these specially trained investigating officers to serve the needs of all of the survivors? So I'm going to leave those three questions with you. One about the implementation, the question about the disparity between numbers of cases reported to SAPS and then numbers of cases eventually placed on the roll and prosecuted by the NPA, and the issue of understaffing and lack of staff members in the FCS units.
Chairperson, thank you very much for the questions. The first one, if I'm not mistaken, was dealing with the lack of sharing of information or explaining the process flow to the complainant. I covered that part in terms of saying in different areas, each and every police station, they have social crime prevention. Social crime prevention is made to do the awareness campaigns within that environment. It depends on the number of imbizos that are there. If there's a lack of information also, the community is invited to join what we call CPFs, community policing forums. On those forums, that's where the community must participate and be able to request a station to disseminate information within the area. So awareness campaigns, imbizos, those are the issues of the station, and the FCS also covers those areas. I mentioned the proactive measures and the partnership that we have within the areas, which include the rural areas, unless the participant is mentioning a specific area where he needs me to focus on. That is not a problem. I can able to attend to that and be able to send my team on that area. But mostly we are doing awareness campaigns. As you know, we have Child Protection Week, which is in June. We have the Women's Month in July, and we also have the upcoming now Skin Days of Activism from the 25th of November to the 10th of December. But we are available ourselves 365 days a year. So any given time, as I'm saying, I've been to churches, I've been to different community radio stations. But if the participant feels that in her or his area, he haven't seen the police doing those and in disseminating that kind of information on awareness on GBV, that can be indicated to me and through you, and I can have that information and be able to disseminate it. Number two, if I'm not mistaken, please remind me, because I took time to get something to write on. I may not remember others. There was an issue of implementation, to say how we're implementing this. We are implementing what we are saying, but if there is a lack of that within a certain police precinct, we are very much happy to hear which area is not compliance, because most people are always saying police need to be skilled and need to be trained. I happen to differ. Most of our police officers are trained on legislations, but the issue that we need to deal with is attitude. This attitude that I've picked up in different areas, where the people, they know what to do, but they choose not to do what they're supposed to be doing. They become negotiators and they become counselors to say, no, go home and do this and do that, which is not what is being said to them in terms of our legislation and in terms of our national instruction as well. I think if I recall nicely, also there was an issue of staffing of FCS.
Yes.
I think you will recall that that is within the SAPS have committed on the IRAP from the NSP, whereby GBV task team, whereby our department committed 312 students to beef up human resources within this environment. And those people were trained. They are now within the FCS environment, and we are preparing to fine-tune them, to send them to the ROC, which is the Resolving of Crime course, and also send them into the FCS course, DLP, which is sharpening them for the environment. That was a commitment made by our department. FCS is no more understaffed. The personnel, they've received 312 personnel that have been pumped into that. And we are also, recently, we have the re-enlistment of former police officers who might have resigned and went for greener pastures, who wants to come back. We've opened up that window, and FCS is prioritized within that. And also, I'm sitting in a committee. When you look at our national strategic plan, one of the indicators is the capacitation of the FCS. So the department is reporting there weekly and monthly what means are they making to capacitate FCS, even looking at lateral advertising, lateral transfers within this environment. So yes, we had the problem of understaffing of human resources, and now we are looking at capacitating, and that already started. Remember, this is a work in progress. We are losing members who are getting promoted to other environments. We are losing members who are also going on pension. We are also losing members who are also becoming victims of crime, where they are also being murdered as well. You will recall there's I lost a member in Soshanguve where he wanted to effect an arrest and he was shot, and I lost a member in Twando where he went to with a victim to arrest the suspect of GBV, and that member was chopped down with an axe. And well, those gaps will always be there in terms of us. So staffing of FCS is work in progress. I wonder if I left out anything, Chairperson, please remind me.
Sure. Firstly, I want to just thank you for it's really good news about the resourcing of the FCS units. I think that's something that was on a lot of our minds. I want to ask Nomandla, who posted the question about the implementation. And yes, they specifically mentioned no victim-friendly rooms, no transport, to maybe just indicate in the chat the area that you're referring to. The last of my questions related to maybe just if you can give us some insight why there is such a big disparity, such a big gap between the number of cases that are reported to the police and the numbers that are actually placed on the court roll and
Yes.
eventually finalized.
Yes.
Yeah.
Starting with the implementation of VFRs, the victim-friendly rooms, I would like Nomandla to indicate to me which police station is he referring to that don't have victim-friendly rooms. Unfortunately, on my pie chart, I don't have those stations that don't have at the moment, because sometimes it's an office space that makes them not to have a victim-friendly rooms. In terms of transport, but even though they have a prime office space, but there should be a dedicated room or office that the victim can be interviewed on. So in terms of transport, I don't understand the issue of transport, because when the victim is at the police station, especially for GBV, we do transport them to our medical centers or clinics and hospitals, and we do drop them back at home. Number two, when they're also supposed to come to testify in court, we also, even though it's not that within our mandate, but we do fetch them when the need arises for them to come and testify. So the one of transport for me is a bit ambiguous, and the one of VFR's implementation is also a bit ambiguous. I would like to have a better explanation what challenge and which area, geographic area, where this is happening. Coming to the issue of maybe I would say discrepancies in terms, not discrepancies per se, but the figures that you are referring to in terms of our successes and also finalized cases. Let me mention this to you. When we conclude the financial year, we report what has been finalized. But other matters which are still continuing, we don't report them because it's on continuous basis. I will tell you that early this year, while we reported the successes that we gave in terms of cases finalized, we still had a plus minus 53,000 cases that were still pending in court. I think you will also, if you look at your national strategic plan, you will see that there's an indicator there for backlog. That backlog talks into two dimensions. One, it talks to cases that are long in court, within the court role at what called at court for different reasons. Some of the reasons for delay in finalizing is not only SAPS as a culprit. Some, yes, is SAPS, because I'll mention the second dimension, which is your DNA. We do have a backlog of DNA, finalizing our DNA. So that on its own also caused a backlog in court. But also the defense attorneys, when the defense attorney asks for a remand, that case also get prolonged. Sometimes the defense attorney is sick, then got reminded, and also maybe at a long run, the perpetrator changes the defense, and he wants another defense attorney. That process also do delay the process of finalizing the cases of GBV. So what I'm trying to say here is that what you guys might not know is that when you give you the stats of finalized cases, we omit telling you how many cases are on the court roll that are still waiting to be finalized. This week, you will be surprised that we had a case in Gauteng of an ex-police officer that has been sentenced into a number of years because he's been convicted for raping young boys and sexually assaulting a young girl. He got a high number of sentences, and you'll be surprised that he has been on a waiting trial for 11 years. So it shows how many cases we have sometimes that are readily in court, but are not yet finalized for different reasons. Some are waiting for DNA, as I said. One of the indicators also within the National Strategic Plan is to deal with the DNA backlog within our own laboratory. That also delays the whole process. There, we were saying these are matters that are work in progress, and we are putting measures in place to make sure that it's being fast-tracked. I was talking to one of the component head of biology today. He was also having a list that he received from NPA, which is busy purifying, trying to fast-track those cases so that we deal with the backlog, that we don't also cause second trauma on victims of GBV while waiting for such long for justice to be done. Chairperson, that's my story. I submit.
Thank you. Thank you. Yeah, that's very insightful. And I haven't heard in the chat from Nomandla about the area, but I do want to pick up on something that you mentioned, which is that often the issue with what the public experience as bad service by the police is not an issue of training on the legislation, but it is an issue of attitude. And
yes.
How can we, as the public or members of civil society, what steps should we follow to make sure that this is addressed? Say someone at the Athlone police station refuses to take a victim's call, or asks her why she was out so late at night. What steps can we take to make sure that this is resolved and addressed? And then the second question also relates to FCS investigating officers. At Rep Prices, we recently had a client who is obviously a victim, and the FCS officer working on that case at Nyanga FCS station went on leave for an extended period of time and didn't inform the client. And then the client wondered, well, does this mean that her case is now on leave as well? And I think that comes to the issue of secondary trauma and really undue postponements or not finalizing this. So maybe you can just comment on that.
Okay, wonderful. The first one, non-compliance from the members at the CSC. You will notice that each and every police officer walking around in uniform, they've got name tags written on their chest. I think it's high time that we name and shame those who don't want to service the community. So with a name tag that is written on him, take that name tag, and if possible, then when you go to your My SAPS app, you will find numbers of the same police station where you can be able to call the commander, station commander, and report that member and be put through a disciplinary process and be made an example so that others cannot repeat the same that is done. Remember, some other people came into the service not because they had passion to serve or to service the community. They came into the service because there was no other employment. We don't want such people. So I had a choice to do other jobs, but I joined the service because I had a passion, not just a career. I had a passion to service this society that we are living in. So help us to identify those. Unfortunately, with me here, I don't have the number for complaints desk, because we do have the number for complaint desk where you can complain to say, Sergeant Linda at Margate Police Station, when I went to report a case, he turned me back. He told me to go back home, and he won't be able to assist me. So we need the community to assist us to name and shame those who are non-compliance. Number two, the issue of FCS member going on leave. Yes, the members, they do have the privilege of going on leave. The question here It's not about the member, it's about the manager or the commander, unit commander of that particular member. In terms of our regulations and instructions, when a member goes on leave, those case dockets must be booked out to another member to investigate them further. The docket does not go home on holiday with the member. Can you imagine if I was going to Mauritius with your dockets and along the way I lose your dockets, what will happen? So the dockets don't leave the police, they what called the offices, but the man is given back to the manager, and the managers must book those dockets out. So if I can have offline follow up on this matter so that I can follow up and check what happened, because I don't want us on this show to make it as if it's a talk show only. What I say here, it goes. That's why I also display my number there on your screen, so that when you come across something that is not in line with what I presented here, then you can come back to me and say, General, this is not happening in this area. So I will be able to pick up my phone and fix it, because I'm not here to talk nice to you and make you feel good. But when you go out of this webinar, then you see that things are not happening practically. I have brigadiers in all 4 provinces. I have unit commanders. That 185 is unit commanders that are out there. So if they're not doing their job, please talk to me. Part of me is monitoring an evaluation of the services that we render, and I'm also policy and standard where something needs to be changed. I am the one responsible to do that. So please, if you come across such and don't keep quiet about it, come back to me, have my number, give me a call and say, General, this is what is happening. I will make a good referral to say, talk to this brigadier, or I'll say to brigadier, go and fix, because it's not supposed to be like that. We are not supposed to render secondary trauma on the victims of gender-based. So the member goes on leave, the work continues. So the manager must book out a docket into another investigating officer until that particular investigating officer comes back, and he can continue when he comes back. But we cannot wait for him to come back, and the case cannot be postponed just because the investigation is not finalized. The IO is on leave. ICON. It doesn't work like that. The tide must turn.
Yeah. Thank you so much. I mean, I really want to thank your you making your details available, and for your willingness to engage on this. I think it really is something that's very valuable to have a leader of the national FCS that is willing to engage about the attitudes and the failures of the team. I got a feedback from Nomantla, who said that they're representative of the National House of Traditional Leaders, looks like in the Eastern Cape, and they were asked this morning to assist with a case at KwaXaXeka, where it was clear that the victim didn't have the information that they needed. So I'm passing that on to you. If you would like to take that on offline.
Yes.
I just want to give a last opportunity. One of the regional board presidents said that it's a challenge for them to make sure that protection orders are serviced. In many instances, the matter is before court, and then the return of service has not yet been filed, even if it has been served. And the second comment from Mr. Tulare is obviously the failure to explain to respondent to file a response to the allegations contained in the application when they are being served. I don't know if that's something that you can comment on.
Well, one, I should disclose that serving of protection orders are not within my mandate. That is the duty of the client service center, which happened to be visible policing. Myself, I'm within the detective environment. So my FCS members, they don't serve the interdicts. The interdicts are being served by the police stations. But given what may, I think this issue has been raised before recently, and I think the divisional commissioner of visible policing is taking care of to say the client service centers must assist in serving those interdict. Reason being that for me, I find it very strange that the victim has been beaten up in a house. He goes to the magistrate court. Coming out there, she must be the one to go and serve this monster with the court order, because that on its own then will aggravate the circumstance. You might pick up the dead body the following day. It's better when it's being brought in by law enforcement. So that issue, I'm just giving a generic comment because it's not within my environment. I also understand the question raised within the very same space that also there is a failure to inform the respondent. He or she must also make a presentation to counter the accusation made by the applicant. Well, hence I said earlier on that it's important for us to refer the victims into legal services. In Johannesburg, there is Vets Clinic where there is free legal advice for victims of GBV. So it depends also on the CSC whether they explain that, and also I think the clerk of the court also should play a role there in advising those. But anyway, those who are coming are applicants. I think the person who's serving the court order should be able to explain. So I think that lies within the visible policing as well. So I will also pass through this message to my colleagues at visible policing.
Thank you so much. Any other questions? Sorry, Mr. Chularia, I got your designation wrong. I know that you are the Chief Magistrate. And maybe just the last question, Major General Linda, is if you would be able to make this presentation available to the participants.
Unfortunately, because it involves statistics, I wouldn't be at liberty to do so. Because it will be a challenge for someone to explain the statistics that he does not know at the source, where it's coming from.
Would you be able to maybe just share the first couple of slides where it explains the FCS mandate and the slide about the legislation and the ministerial 6-point plan?
With pleasure, I can do that.
Thank you. If you
I will remove the slides with the statistics. Then that information, which is informative, I will be able to send it to you.
Perfect. And then we will ask Itumeleng from the Department of Justice to forward it to the participants, so that and she has their information, obviously from the people joining this webinar. So I know that everyone is eager to get their plans going for Heritage Day, and I really thank you, Major General Linda, for being available, for being so open and honest, for giving us feedback. Pia Smith from the NPA says they're working very close with FCS SAPS, trying to continuously improve the services to victims of GBVF cases, and it's really important to focus on the element of prevention as well as a collective approach. And I know that the FCS units play a very important role in that. So I really appreciate that you, in your busy schedule, could make time to speak to us today. And I want to thank all the participants who joined, who sent questions. I hope that you found this useful. And also thank you for the Department of Justice who set up the invitations. And I hope that everyone will join our next session on the 7th of October, looking at another exciting topic, possibly unpacking the proposed amendments to the Domestic Violence Act. And so from the Pillar 3 working group of the NSP Collaborative, I wish you a very happy Heritage Day tomorrow, with a celebration with your loved ones. If you are going on the road, please stay safe. If you are making it a long weekend, enjoy that. Until we see each other again on the 7th of October. Thank you and bye.
Thank you so much.